This is Pixie did another video just on OMAD really. This is something I was sort of thinking about tonight, and that was just to do with the OMAD. So the 1 meal a day also creates an immune response, so they say, but it's really a maintenance system, and your body just wants to upgrade. So it starts producing more brown fat, and so as it converts the whiter fat into brown fat. But then what is the purpose of the white fat? And the white fat supports, it insulates your skin, it protects your muscles and other things from damage. Have you ever seen some fighters as well? Some fat, quite large fighters, they're quite difficult to take down because their body is well padded. I was watching a martial art, I think it's boxing actually, and found that the stronger fighter couldn't really. I mean, when you're in the gym pumping iron, you're probably giving yourself a harder type of impact punch, but you're not necessarily improving yourself as a fighter. You might have counterproductive elements to it. Stop it, fucker. That's it. You look at your cars that want to fly out. I've got somebody right on my arse as well. So yeah, so basically I've seen it on a few occasions. You've seen somebody use all rips and chisels, and you think, well, he's going to win. And he was basically, the guy was using his fats to his advantage. So he's letting himself take blows in certain areas of his body where he's a bit padded. And it basically just wears down the more muscular fighter, because his body is going to be demanding more sugars, these larger muscles, because what he's got is he's got a certain type of muscle that he's been building at the bulk muscle, so that he can sort of push through basically. He's just hit him, but it's more science in punching than just simply the size of your muscles. It's also to do with things like your bone density, the way you strike an opponent, the angle of attack, converting some of your body weight across, that usually projects through the skeleton. There's also the extension, and then you've got the impact of driving through the target. But you don't have to really do all that, because actually if your arms makes contact and you're in a good position, you move your weight into the target. It's like sending a wave through your arm. So that's only weight ratio in your arm, the kinetic force is projected through, and so you can punch into different ways than you'd normally do. You don't have to do like the full extension and place your body at risk, but you do have to have your arm kind of firm to absorb the impact. Otherwise, if it's half bent and it just bends back, all you're doing is like swinging it on the hinge of your joint basically. Just you're absorbing your own impact as if you were doing a press up or something, doing a clapping press up. So yeah, there's different elements there. So anyway, basically his white fat acts as a bit of a shield for his muscles, and so he allowed him to attack his muscle, the white fat, and with the bone of his muscle. And it was like punching a sofa, probably like a leather sofa. And all he's done is just worn himself out. And then so the fatter fighter could then starts to deliver some select punches. So he's trying to drive some force in. And once he lands a few, then he starts to topple the more chiseled fighter, because there's both a psychological whammy. It's like, wow, where did that come from? And stop. Yeah, we'll stop. So that comes as a surprise. And also the blows, and this happened with George Foreman as well. He's a bit chunky bloke, and so with George Foreman, you know, people might have thought it was a pushover when he was sort of he'd make his comeback, but then he basically did the same. He took a lot of the blows. He did I think he did it with Muhammad Ali. He took the blows, and then somebody, I have to remember exactly who he was fighting against, and then he reversed it. He said, right, my turn or something. He decided to put the gas on. And so, you know, as a fighter, what he's done is he's started to switch his adrenaline on. And his cortisol levels and other things would have just revved up, because he's decided to take on, he's gone from taking the hits and absorbing them to now deciding he wants to deliver them and be willing to take other hits in retaliation, possibly, or it might get a counter strikes. But he already knows his opponent's at a disadvantage. So there's sort of a bit of good stress going on there. So there's interesting things with fats and the body types, and also, you know, basically it's not bad to be a different type of athlete. It's just that if it's more about the aesthetics of being a, you know, a type of fighter or whatever, then or a muscle builder, then you're probably missing out. Now, an interesting person I sometimes follow is Cole Robson, the snake diet bloke, because he does actually do different mixed training with his body. So like he does his ice cold showers and cold water treatments. He does fasting. He will put on weight. He will lose weight. He will do different things to explore the body's kind of the abilities of it, really. So I wonder what else he could do to really go think, and probably his diet as well. And so he's an adaptable person. But there's other things as well, like this Chinese method, right? There's an internal strength and the external thing, and then this is the abs and abdomen. So I was watching some female footballers, and they were pretty athletic, but they used their bodies more internally strong in a different way. So it's more what's known as the golden bell. Yeah, whatever you beat, it's not going to get you what you want. And that while whatever's going on. And yeah, the other one is the iron shirt, which is more external, so it's easier to develop. You just overdevelop your muscles externally, and then you prepare them to take hits and punishment. The internal one, however, is all about sucking it in, so more like the yoga vacuum exercises and other things. I was just looking how sort of sucked in they were to the core, so the core is very strong. It has to be makes it flexible. I mean, overall, you could have a bit of both, but you need to kind of adapt the body differently, which also means a bit like Cole's method. You've got to suddenly change the way you're doing things. You can't stick too rigidly to some pattern in order to explore it. And things like fasting would help as well. I mean, if you're empty and you're doing yoga vacuums on an empty stomach, then you can work the internal organs, because it's all muscles throughout your gut lining all the way down there. So you strengthen that, and then there's certain things where you might also work around impact. So you might do things like use your stomach muscles to push a weight off and stuff like that, or the vacuum, or holding breath. And there's something else maybe for sort of Cole would be, if he looks at the Will Hoff and his method of holding his breath, there's some stuff where people do exercises where their breath's held, or they can hold his breath for like 4 minutes. So there's oxygenate the body, alkaline the body, and it seems to have certain benefits there. So it might be worth sort of exploring that element. You know, sort of that's or anybody into that kind of training wants to develop it. I mean, I'll probably be looking at it as well. I mean, I could do cold baths, like I could go underwater. Well, basically, apart from my nose popping out, can be underwater for half an hour. I could do that in the cold water, just the tap temperatures. I need to get a thermometer to know exactly what that means, temperature-wise. How cold is it? Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Just checking my lights. The other thing about OMAD was sugars. And the problem with sugar is that most foods, and you constantly get this insulin spike, which is no good. So you go OMAD, and you've cut out sugar and you reduce everything, and you kind of reset your body. And then you introduce sugar again, you think, oh, well, is this a good thing or not? And what you'd be doing is you'll be introducing it where you need it. So, I mean, possibly is so if your body produces an amount of growth hormone and it switches it off, that growth hormone should be already in your body. So if you have something sugary and then you go blasting down the gym, what you need to do is make sure you do a fair amount of exercise. Really, you just want to make sure you benefit from that extra sugars that you've added to it. I mean, you can train knackered, you'll still get you'll get results, but however, it's a bit like diesel fat running on your own fats, and the ketones is going to be a lot more powerful. It's going to be more broken down the sugars. But that's because the sugars have different functions as well. So, like, fat is the food for your body, but it's also for life support and other functions. Your cholesterol is used for loads of different processes in the body. And there's a reason why there's glycogen in the muscles, and also there's liver glycogen as well. So there's reasons why they're storing these energy. It's like a battery. Oh, that's nice. Like I bloody having a flipping road wars or something coming over to my side. I'm going to bash each other's doors in. Like a fuck, don't I? It's too much watching Mad Max. Anyway, so back to the thing. Yeah, but basically, you can utilise sugar. Sugar is not the enemy, but maybe it's supposed to be misused. It depends what your goals are. So the other thing I will get into as well. So I've mentioned about that white fat has a role in the body between the outer surface of the body and the skin, padding it, protecting it, oiling it, hydrating it. That's why somebody with oily skin is probably likely to be a fatter person than a skinnier person. But however, it doesn't necessarily work that way. Because it's diet as well. You leak out oils from skin for your diet. And so what does brown fat do? Well, brown fat utilises the whiter fat, but it also makes it easier access energy for your body. And then the next stage would be, so if you built up a lot of brown fat reserves, can the brown fat reserves transfer energy better to the muscles? And so if you're working out a lot, will the brown fat be utilised into muscle making as well, just as the brown fat will create itself? It's just that when I look at someone who's a bodybuilder, they appear to have less fat tissue on them because of they're ripped. So where is the fat tissue? It's all in there somewhere, but it's been utilised a different way. And so the muscles have now started developing a dual role, which is where Cole Robson is quite right as well. Where if you bulk and you slim and all these other things, the muscles become a fuel tank because you've developed them to be in a fuel tank in essence. You're powering them up, using them for heavy work. They need to regenerate more often, so they're becoming a bit more accessible to the body, and so they'll be utilised more for regeneration, degeneration, energy, and so on. Your body, it doesn't want. I mean, basically, it's muscle sparing, so that's why it regenerates them so quick. However, if they're getting well used a lot, and it's likely their energy levels are sort of reducing a lot, I would assume that they would also be utilised for development. So you're basically somebody like that, their body will change quite frequently. If they stop doing it for a month, lifting any weights, they'll probably change quite radically. But then if they start lifting weights again, then there's a kind of muscle memory, the system set up, and regenerate muscle really quickly as well. So it's one of these things that if you practice it, you develop it, and if you utilise it differently, then it will change as well. So do brown fats get converted into helping to build muscle fibre? Do they just feed the muscles? What's their dual role? Because they do lots of things. They do the thermogenesis to warm up the body. They feed it nutrients. There's greater blood circulation. They help you to go get your ketones in because you're switching over. They may also regenerate white fat quick as well. So if you've developed your brown fat, you've actually, by that actual hack, you've made it more accessible for both. It's a bit like when, if you sort of biohack your muscles in essence, what happens is your vascular system develops more for around them, so it creates certain strengths and vulnerabilities. Like you get better circulation to your muscles. So oxygenating them means you'd probably have to utilise more strength. But if you've been trying to isolate the muscle, then the mechanical way they function is that the power might be more driven from one area of the body, while the other's muscles act as stabilisers. While somebody's been more internal developed, they might have to utilise a bit more muscle groups to get the effectiveness. You know, it's a bit like, for example, in my care role, I have to mind my back because I utilise my hips, picking people up and lifting them up and moving them around. Now, if I was just a plain, you know, let's say I just built up my muscles as like a wrestler or something. Yes, I mean using your back well would be great, but if you're a certain strength, you may actually just say choose to use a different area of your body, your muscle group. Like you might be getting someone in some sort of slam or something, or picking them up. You might be using that person differently. So you're driving, you know, like your upper body strength. And you may be working with just like your major muscle groups. Just focus on enlarging them and picking and using them as driving the force. Well, for me, it's about manipulation and control and firmness, keeping them safe. So it's different. So what I use is like a knee bend, straight back, body form, so I connect with their centre of gravity and help to support them during the motion of the movement, lifting them up. So it's a lot different application. And it can, you know, some of it you think, oh, they're just getting up, but if they become a dead weight, then you may suddenly take on. It's like someone's dropped a heavy weight and you've caught it, and so you might take on put them in 10 stone or whatever they weigh. I mean, there was a woman out up, she must have weighed about 18 or 19 stone, and she was just slow getting up and unsteady, and so she's a part of her body wanted to drop back down in the sea, and so when it done that, she dropped a sort of a few inches, but what she dropped was everything above that knee down a few inches for a few seconds. So I realised it was like 10 stone. It just landed on me. So it's different. So yeah, the interest is the roles and functions of fats in the body and different tissues, and also to go into a new level. So for instance, you might cut back and get quite ripped, you might get quite thin, but there may be a limit. You have to do exercise, otherwise you cannot get into the rest of it or getting more access to it. And then also understanding that it will require certain maintenance. So why I can play around on OMAD, I still go into the scales, I'm still looking at the information, the weight's staying the same. I'm looking thinner because I'm starting to do a bit more press-ups. And then I look at also the yoga vacuum, and when your stomach's empty, just go on a longer fast and do a load of them exercises. And then that kind of thing. So you're basically utilising different elements of the body, and it's just getting a deeper understanding as well. And also sugars, like I say, to have some sugars. I had a client basically had loads of sweets he bought, and I didn't want to chuck them in the bin. He said, you can chuck them in the bin. I said, well, he said, oh, you can have them. I said, okay, I'll just have them. I'll probably end up giving them to my nieces and nephew. However, I was eating some, and another true fact is that sugar causes you to pee. So I had some sugar. I started eating a few of these blooming fruit salads and blackjacks, they call them. And then I noticed that I just started to want to have a piss. And it was only because I had them, blackjacks and bits. Yeah, I'll just do it. It's in the dark, isn't it? I'll see better though. Cool. Okay, well this is Pixie signing off, and speak to you soon.